Welcome, everybody, to the BURKE Brigade, brought to you by the Liberty Daily,
your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
I'm Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
Today is August 24th, a beautiful, very late Thursday evening. We are doing a late edition and possibly somewhat abbreviated, depending on how long-winded we are. We had a very dear friend in the Tea Party movement that had to go to emergency, he has pneumonia, and we had to attend to him a little bit, which we're more than happy to do. But and please pray for his immediate healing. I'm not going to say his name here over the interwebs, but God knows who he is. So thank you for that. How are you tonight, my lovely dear?
I'm doing pretty good. I think.
Ya?
Yeah.
It was a crazy freaking day here. Are you ready to roll?
Let's do it. Let's
Okay.
rock and roll, baby.
Let's start out with something fun here. Let's start with America's Biggest Idiot. So this is Nancy Pelosi. You know that old axiom, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, like that wouldn't be, the Supreme Court has ruled, protected speech under the First Amendment. Well, she was talking about the First Amendment, and she actually got it just a little bit wrong. Let's listen.
Responsibility. How could the Park Service justify denying that organization their free speech rights? Because the Constitution does not say that a person can yell wolf in a crowded theater.
Yo, wolf!
Botox Nan.
Because we all know shouting wolf would incite riots, violence, mayhem. Boy,
Hysteria.
that wolf. Don't.
Oh my gosh, I'm in a major city in
Wolf.
the United States.
And also
there's a
dog,
wolf in
cat,
there.
horse. Don't say any of those things.
Oh my goodness.
Absolute buffoon.
Nancy, pro tip, lay off the Botox in your forehead.
I gotta hear it again.
Responsibility. How could the Park Service justify denying that organization their free speech rights? Because the Constitution does not say that a person can yell wolf in a crowded theater. If you are endangering people, then you don't have a constitutional right to do that.
So yelling wolf endangers people?
Oh my gosh. You know, if Nancy Pelosi were a Republican, CNN would be convening a panel every hour asking whether or not she's fit for the presidency. Anna Navarro, the fake Republican on CNN, wants to, diagnose Trump as having early onset dementia. Nancy Pelosi has referred to President Trump, 3 times now, as President Bush?
I think it might possibly be even more than that.
This is not the first gaffe she's had. This is not the first huge faux pas she's had. What is going wrong with San Fran Botox Nam?
They're questioning Trump's sanity. Why aren't they questioning her sanity? She's obviously got some issues.
She was tired.
Let's just go to a flashback moment. One of the more hilarious times during the 2016 presidential campaign. Now, this isn't exactly like crying wolf, but it kind of is. I wonder if this would be constitutional in San Fran Nan's mind.
Republicans want to repeal it. They actually, with a straight face, say that the Great Recession was caused by too much regulation on Wall Street. They actually say that. I remember when, I supported...
Because it was, you idiot. This isn't even what we're going to talk about, but I can't let this just slide. This was actually something I know something about, considering my background. And government regulations, I'll tell you something, in the 1970s, I started out in banking. I was in high school, and I got a job as a bank teller in high school in the 1970s. This was a small community bank in Idaho. And there was just a massive panic one day. And what it was, all the management was just in a frenzy. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? Oh, the Community Reinvestment Act, the CRA.
Get your CRA files.
Yeah, get the CRA files. And it's because Jimmy Carter, this Community Reinvestment Act, it forced banks to make loans to people that otherwise could not afford it, based on their skin tone. And so, if you didn't make a certain number of loans to whatever preferred race the government preferred at the time, then you were deemed a racist, and they could, fine or ultimately shut down your bank. Now, this was ultimately, the CRA was strengthened and given more teeth by Bill Clinton big time. And policies like that completely led to, basically what was going on was the government was pointing a gun to these banks' heads and saying, you loan people money that can't otherwise qualify under normal, qualification standards to get a mortgage loan. And then guess what happened? They eventually start defaulting. Shocker. Another utopian policy in the toilet.
My husband through all of his races in Arkansas. And
William Fulbright was his mentor, who was a racist, a segregationist, and Bill kissed his white ass. And so he wasn't just growing up around racists, he was a racist and worshipped a racist. Were you going to say something?
No.
I guess not. Okay, more Hillary.
One of my favorite political ads of all time was a radio ad, rural Arkansas, where the announcer said, wouldn't it be great if somebody running for office said something, we could have an immediate reaction as to whether it was true or not? Well, we've trained this dog, and the dog, if it's not true, he's going to bark. And then the dog was barking on the radio.
Do it for us, Hillary.
And so, people were like barking at each other.
What did it sound like?
Days after that. I'm trying to figure out how we can do that with the Republicans.
Yeah, show us.
We need to get that dog and follow them around, and every time they say these things, like, the Great Recession was caused by too much regulation. I think we
What's
could...
the female name for dog?
Oh, it rhymes with witch, doesn't it?
I just thought about that. Hillary,
you're
come
mean.
on. Come on.
So mean-spirited.
You just gave so much fodder, Hillary. Come on, man.
Did you hear how natural that sounded?
What? The bark?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that might be something she does on a regular basis. It was pretty...
Hey, who knows what Bill's fetishes are? Maybe that's the only... Never mind.
I don't think you want to go there, but I don't know. Somehow, that comment by Nancy Pelosi... Wolf, you can't cry wolf in a crowded theater, reminded me, I don't know why, of Hillary barking like that. And so you're welcome for that, for that memory. So the point of that, showing that whole thing, is that Nancy Pelosi is a utter buffoon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this makes my freaking blood boil. But 10 Commandments judge, he fought for the 10 Commandments. One of the 10 Commandments is, thou shalt not lie. So I don't think Judge Roy Moore would be lying here, considering what he gave up to fight for those 10 Commandments monuments in Alabama. But he is saying that establishment Rhino Squish, who is head of the Surrender Caucus in the U.S. Senate, he is trying to get Democrats to vote in Alabama's Republican primary. Now that sounds familiar.
I was just looking that up, honey. Wasn't it
Mississippi. Remember with Thad Cochran and Chris McDaniel?
Yes, Thad Cochran and Chris McDaniel, Mitch McConnell, and his little cronies were running ads accusing Thad Cochran of being not Thad Cochran, Chris McConnell of being a racist. McDaniel of being a racist, of being did they go so far as to accuse him of being a member of the KKK?
That I don't
sordid.
know, but
it was pretty sordid.
They accused him of being a racist because if you're a Democrat, which is actually what Mitch McConnell is, he would be considered, truth be told, a moderate Democrat with his F Conservative Review Liberty score, which I believe is about a 47. Now, you have a teaching background. What would happen if a student turned in a paper and it had a 47 on it?
They would fail.
They would fail.
And they would not only fail then, but with a grade that low, they would drastically impact the possibility of even passing the course, because if they're doing that poorly on that thing, are they going to be consistent with their poor performance?
Yeah, maybe
or are they going to pick it up?
Maybe there needs to be a truth in labeling law so that, if you're a rhino squish like McConnell, name a couple, Lindsey Graham,
John McCain,
John Latrine, Jeff the Flake, people like that. If you vote with Democrats, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of the time, you shouldn't be allowed to use the Republican label.
No. Let alone lead.
It's false advertising.
Lead.
It's completely false advertising.
This Republican Senate.
So here's Judge Roy Moore. Well, that's exactly what their strategy is. That's what we're talking about. I wish the people of Alabama knew. I wish the people of Alabama knew that McConnell and them were using the Democrats to come into the Republican primary. Unfreaking real. Pardon me. He continues. They're trying to win in any way they can, no matter how dirty and how underhanded the tactics. That's exactly Mitch McConnell. They've already put out campaign ads that were false, and they'll continue to do things like this because they cannot win on their own merits. The only way they win is by diminishing the other candidates. And we know he's running against McConnell stooge Luther the Strange, who was appointed by the ex-governor there, a Republican governor who was an absolute shyster. And he was... This is such a setup. I mean, Strange was supposed to be... He was the attorney general there. He was supposed to be investigating Bentley, and then agreed not to prosecute him for the crimes he was doing, as long as he appointed Luther the Strange to temporarily take the seat for that was left vacated by Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, sounds to me like ultimate cronyism and swamp creatures.
Right. And then Karl Rove, Rhino Karl Rove, the guy that moved George Bush to the left, he's throwing millions to Strange too. Unfreaking. So it's the establishment rhinos, i.e. Democrats,
right,
running against a God-fearing conservative.
We've seen
it's a David and Goliath.
We've seen these establishment
My money's
rhinos.
on Goliath.
Yeah, we've seen these establishment...
David, sorry.
We've seen these establishment rhinos go after conservatives. People like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and John McCain have better things to say about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama than they do about Ted Cruz. Think about former orange-skinned House leader John Boehner.
John Boehner.
He called Ted Cruz Lucifer. It wasn't the first time he attacked Ted Cruz.
Right,
and
Lucifer.
attacked other members of Congress that are very conservative. But then he said that he and Obama, didn't he talk about the friendly relationship he had with Barack Obama?
Oh, yeah. He's his lover almost. And the thing is, he also predicted, you got to give him this much, that the Republicans would never actually repeal Obamacare. And to his credit, he was right.
He was right, because he knew that they were...
He knew the rhinos,
all
because he
those
has
times that they were voting to repeal Obamacare, they only did so because they knew Obama would veto it.
Right,
John,
it was a
John
fraud.
McCain probably sat on the on a balcony in a beer summit, personal beer summit with Barack Obama.
I think whiskey. He prefers
right.
bourbon.
Bourbon, yeah. He had bourbon and cigarettes.
Yeah. Yeah, he likes the tobacco. Okay, so here's Judge Roy Moore talking. He told this to the Daily Caller. I could not fail to talk about the role of God in my public life. God is directing whatever I do. And when I depart from that, it doesn't work. I don't know about you. I would rather have a man of God who is automatically going to try to do the right thing.
Right.
Because they're accountable to God.
Because they worship God, not government.
Right. Who automatically is going to hold themselves or try to hold themselves to a higher standard. Who's automatically going to, do their best, even though they're infallible, to tell the truth. Unlike these other SOBs that are completely unhinged from any, moral pillars. That just make crap up as they go. I would rather have somebody like Judge Roy Moore. So here's what he says, quote, over $20 million is being pledged against me in this runoff. And that's unbelievable. We've raised a little under $500,000. And to compete with that during the primary was very difficult. But yet, there's a relatively new poll. It's just a few days old that shows Judge Roy Moore with, I believe it was an 18 or 19 point lead over Strange.
Judge Roy Moore, I have 2 words for your consideration. You ready, honey?
Is it Ditch Mitch?
No. Dave Bratt.
Right. Good point.
He was up against
Eric Cantor.
Eric Cantor, who had far more money, who had the establishment on his side, who did not want, a conservative. And Dave Bratt has been impressive every time I've heard him speak.
He's amazing.
He's been great.
He is amazing.
And he was the David who brought down Goliath.
Yes.
So study that campaign, follow that strategy. It can happen that you can bring down Goliath, because one thing we've seen about Goliaths, they're a bunch of liars.
Right.
They'll tell the people what they want to hear, and once they get in office, they'll do something completely different because they think that they know what's best for you, you little peon. That's how they view us.
And that's how Eric Cantor viewed life. He never, or very rarely, ever returned to his district. He would do like McCain, just flood it with money. Flood the airways with a smear campaign and try to overwhelm people. But the thing is, Dave Bratt had the grassroots. He had the Tea Party.
Right.
And that's why they're having a hard time bringing down Judge Roy Moore, the 10 Commandments judge.
The 10 Commandments judge, for goodness sakes.
Yep. That was willing to fight for what's right and not let the black-robed tyrants in Washington, D.C., bastardize the U.S. Constitution and American traditions and the principles that the country was founded on. Here's Judge Roy Moore. I stand for God. I stand for the Constitution. I stand for the values that made this country great. And they don't want me there because I'm not going to back down from it. Kaboom!
Boom!
I mean, would we have a $20 trillion debt?
No.
If we had everybody in there that stood for God and stood for the Constitution, you wouldn't do that because it would be immoral.
Right.
It would be immoral.
Yeah, well, big government party number one, big government party number two. We've said for years, Republicans are content with being second place as long as they have a little bit of power. They're so in bed with the Democrats. It's very telling. It was very telling to see John Boehner yucking it up with Nancy Pelosi, kissing on her cheek, drinking wine, whatever, with her, while he's calling Ted Cruz Lucifer.
Right. I mean, it's very clear.
John McCain calling Ted Cruz and Mike Lee wacko birds while he's praising Hillary Clinton as a great patriot.
Mitch McConnell declaring war on the Tea Party.
Yep.
The very base of his own party. The energy that got Republicans the majorities.
Yeah, and then I just must say that, honey, you didn't realize this, but our old unscrupulous boss, who we left when we realized what he was really about, supporting Mitch McConnell, who said he was going to have war on the Tea Party. People, you got to really don't just judge people based upon what label they place upon themselves.
Yeah.
Look at what they're truly doing, because it speaks volume with what they are about.
Right. I mean, and probably all Democrats are demonic and rotten. So I'm not going to say they're not.
Yeah, and for those
Democrats... But most Republicans are too.
For those
rotten to the core.
For those Democrats like Alan Dershowitz and Jonathan Turley, who are Democrats, the Democrat Party of today does not align with who you are. Does not align with what you believe. I don't know if you think it's going to be able to be reined back into what the Democratic Party was. I mean, listening to John F. Kennedy, some of his speeches.
Sounds like Reagan compared to
could have been given by a conservative compared to Democrats of today. The Democrats of today are being taken over by socialist communists, as is evidenced by the rise of Bernie Sanders and the support by the Democrats and the Democrat media complex of Antifa. And prior to them, Black Lives Matter. And prior to them, Occupy Wall Street. Read the writing on the wall.
I don't think they care. I think they have gone so far to the left.
No, they don't care, but I'm saying people like Jonathan Turley and
there's a few honest
Alan
liberals.
Dershowitz.
There's
the Democrat
few honest
Party,
liberals.
I don't know how you can have that label on yourself as a Democrat today. I don't.
Well, Dershowitz almost switched parties. He said, or quit being a Democrat.
Right.
I don't know if he'd switch parties or not, but he said, I will cease being a Democrat if they put the anti-Semite Muslim Brotherhood stooge Keith Ellison as head of the DNC. Now, they made him number 2.
Right, and I wish he would have left
Tom
after
Perez
they made him number
at the top,
2.
who is an
Tom
absolute
Perez.
communist.
There's no room for pro-life people in the Democrat Party.
Yeah, kill the babies!
Only join the Democrat Party if you support the killing of babies in the womb.
They love killing them babies, those dirty Democrats, they do. So, contrast, Judge Roy Moore. Back to that. I stand for God. I stand for the Constitution. I stand for the values that made this country great, and they don't want me to go there because I'm not going to back down, and he's already shown he wouldn't back down. We've forgotten the meaning of those ideas, and now it's all about power. Human nature is fallen, and the Constitution was put in there to restrain that human nature so that we would have better government. Now that is such a deep understanding of the Constitution and the founding and our founding principles that you don't hear it said that way very often, do you?
No, you do not.
He said the Senate perfectly exemplifies the problem in Washington. It's happening in this race. They're all out to win. They don't care about party. They don't care about principles.
Nope.
They just want to win. That is a huge problem in this country, and it's exemplified by Obama's Mitch McConnell. By the way, speaking of Mitch McConnell, do you know who the most hated politician in America is right now? Any clue?
Let me guess. His letters are MM? Wait.
Yeah.
OMM.
Obama's Mitch. McConnell. That's pretty good, honey. Hashtag ditch Mitch. Hashtag ditch Mitch. I wrote about this. A new scientific poll declared that establishment rhino squish and Surrender Caucus leader Mitch McConnell, i.e. Obama's Mitch, who has a conservative review liberty score, I think I said 47 earlier. I was generous. It's a F. It's 42 out of a possible 100, is the most hated politician in America. The Hill reported Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has the lowest favorability rating of any elected official with a national profile, according to a new Harvard Harris poll provided exclusively to the Hill. Just 19% nationally. Now, I guess that's the good news, right? Because in his own home state, where you would think they love him, right? 18% in Kentucky.
Wow, and Trump's favorability in Kentucky is higher, from what I heard the other day.
It's much higher. Now, Trump has favorability problems too. That gets all the news, but he's very popular compared to Mitch McConnell.
Right?
I mean, there are diseases that have higher. Woo! You know, maybe that's what happens when you have no principles, you stand for nothing except your own greedy power, and you attack people that are principled. You know, you attack the Ted Cruzes of the world. You attack the Ten Commandments judge Roy Moores of the world. Maybe that's what happens. You know, maybe being a leader, you should actually have some damn principles, Mitch McConnell.
Cojones.
Have you ever thought about that? I think he's got cojones. He's just on the wrong damn team. He's fighting for the wrong side.
That's true.
He's Benedict Arnold.
Change your label, man.
Change your party affiliation. Just be freaking honest. You're not a Republican. You're not a conservative. You don't stand for anything. You haven't stood for limited government. You haven't stood for pro-life. You haven't stood for, fighting the deficit. Here we have a debt ceiling situation. What's the first thing he says?
We're definitely, there's no chance that we're not going to.
Raise debt ceiling. We might default. We will learn to default. He plays into the Democrat Party playbook. There's no freaking way to default. Do you think people are going to quit paying their taxes? There are hundreds of billions of dollars coming in. Plenty to pay the interest on the national debt.
Yeah.
He knows this. There is no chance of a government default. The only way there could be a government default and the government shutdown, which I think only 18%, if I remember correctly, is that it? It's a very small amount of the government that actually goes away during the government shutdown.
Well, the government shuts down every weekend.
Right.
Government shuts down during snowstorms.
Mark Levin taught us that.
Right? Right?
No, but I think it's 17 or 18%. That's what it is. I remember. It's 73%. 17% is shut down. 83% of the government is open. And by the way, when the government's open, that's costing us money.
Right. And that's
when the government's closed, that's saving money. So
and
if you shut the government,
more safe.
If you shut the government
People who
down,
want safe spaces, those who want safe spaces, you should want government shutdowns.
Yeah, that's right. But even if you could shut down 100%, and a shutdown is not 100%, it's a 17% shutdown. All the revenue continues unless they send a memo to taxpayers, quit paying your taxes because we're having a government shutdown. So it's a complete, total, absolute lie. And the first thing he does is he bends over, he spreads his ass cheeks, and he says, "Give it to me, Chuck Schumer." It's absolutely disgusting.
Ridiculous.
And you know, the President Trump, everybody elected him because they thought he was a fighter. Fight this Mitch McConnell. Take him to the woodshed. Beat rhetorically, politically, the living...
Rhetorically.
Yeah, not physically, people. The living hell out of him. And shove this debt ceiling up his rear end.
Keister.
Up his keister. Absolutely. So here's something that's kind of good. Are you telling me we need to move on? We're an honest show, honey. Just say it out loud. I can't get this page to load. Oh, here we go. So the next on our list here, this is actually pretty cool. The Southern Poverty Law Center. We talked about this last night, didn't we?
Yes.
They're a communist front group. You know, they're one of these income equality Marxist groups operating under the guise that they're masquerading as a civil rights organization or something like that. But what they are really is a communist front group, and they came out with this hate group that includes virtually every
hate group list.
Yeah, hate group list, which really includes like every major Christian organization in America, every major conservative organization in America. Basically,
every even small local tea parties.
Yeah, if you don't agree with Karl Marx on everything, if you believe in the Constitution, and if you're against bastardizing marriage to change it into be something that it's absolutely not and never has been, and if you're against killing babies, then somehow you're put on this hate group. But the good news is there is a lawsuit. They are
interesting.
They are getting sued.
They are getting sued.
It's from Red State.
D. James Kennedy Ministries filed a lawsuit in federal court in Alabama alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center illegally trafficked in false and misleading description of the services offered by the ministry, subjecting it to disgrace, ridicule, odium, and contempt in the estimation of the public. These false and illegal characterizations have a chilling effect on the free speech of religion and on religious free speech for people of all faith, said the President and CEO Frank Wright on Wednesday. Now, one thing you can bet your bottom dollar on, CNN will not be fixated on this lawsuit. All of these states attorney generals that were filing lawsuits against President Trump because they didn't like his travel ban on terrorists, that even, refused to implement even the portions that were allowed by the Supreme Court because they said, you can't force us to do it. They were all praised, and their lawsuits were all, promoted. They were going to the idiot attorney general, who shouldn't even be attorney general, and Washington State. Oh yeah, I'll file a lawsuit on that. Oh, don't worry, we got your back. It was no small coincidence that things were going from Hawaii and California and Washington State, so they could go to the Ninth Circuit Court.
Circus, honey, not circuit.
Ninth Circus, yes. Sorry, thanks for correcting me. And their lawsuits got national attention over and over and over again, and this will be swept under the rug.
That's exactly right. And you know what they're doing? Then this other communist front group, ProPublica, they're having their fake journalists attack these organizations and even going to their web providers and saying, look, do you know you're servicing a hate group? How does it feel to service a hate group? And then they're putting the heat on them to close them down. And then, other George Soros funded communist front groups like Media Matters are going after the advertisers. And they're saying, hey, do you know that you're supporting, you're advertising on a group that has been declared a hate group.
Hate speech.
And they're the biggest haters there is.
Yep.
I mean, they inspired, who was it? They inspired a guy to go into the, who's the Focus on the Family?
I'll look it up. I know it.
They go in there and start shooting people.
James Dobbs?
James Dobson's
Yes.
group. What's the name of it? I'm having a freaking brain fart. That's what
James
happens.
Dobson.
I know, but what's the name of the group? Anyway, you probably our vast listening audience has got it off the tip of their head. You know, when you get old, this happens.
I wouldn't contribute it to age. I would say fatigue.
Late. But anywho, you guys know what I'm talking about. So these guys are haters. Basically, they hate anybody that loves America. They hate anybody who's a Christian.
Right.
Anybody who believes in the
Xenophobe.
Bible. Anybody that believes in the Bible, they hate them. I got news for
Bigot.
you. That's a lot of people, and we outnumber you. And
Right?
we
Let
will
your
crush
voice
you.
be heard.
We will crush
Don't
you.
be silenced.
We will crush you like the rotten grapes you are. And with that, we are going to call it a wrap. Little bit early tonight, but it's because we are running late. We have a little bit of a situation to deal with tonight that we're praying about. So, thank you for tuning in to
The BURKE Brigade. I thought we were going to say it together.
Well, whatever. It's okay. You're good. Brought to you by the Liberty Daily, your conservative alternative to
The Drudge Report.
God bless you, everybody. We really appreciate you tuning in.
God bless America.